All right, that brings us to our missions report. And the missions report is chaired by Brother Mobley. Are you prepared to? Yes. All right. Brother Derek.
Good afternoon. The 2017 missions report for the Bethel Missionary Baptist Association is as follows. From Amana Missionary Baptist Church, home mission supported $400, foreign mission supported $800. From Bethel, home mission supported $1,000, foreign mission supported in the amount of $2,400. Faith in Indiana supported Old Fashioned Gospel Hour in the amount of $600, as well as the Gold Coast Mission Fund in the amount of $600. We also supported the Hope Mission that was being conducted by Brother Damon Carlock. That mission work was disbanded previously this year. They returned the funds that they had collected. So both Faith in Indiana as well as Fellowship has reported that. I've recorded that that support was made, but I have not included the financial amount since those funds were returned. So you'll see that reflected in the mission report. But that's what that reflects. We should be praying for Brother David Carlock in that work. Continuing on there. Faith in Michigan supported the Anchor Missionary Baptist Church, Missionary James Keene, no amount provided. Upper Spotsylvania Missionary Baptist Church, Brother Justin Ferris, as well as Peacekeepers International. Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church supported the Gold Coast Mission. Missionary Brother Brad Hicks is responsible for overseeing those funds in the amount of $1,091. They supported New Hope Mission in the amount of $1,600. The Old Fashioned Gospel Hour in the amount of $1,100. Supported Walking in the Old Paths. That's the work that I believe that Brother Scott, Brother Younger Whitney, support that one. They also supported the Ghana trip from Brother Jeff and those that go to Ghana in the amount of $2,171. Freedom Missionary Baptist Church supported home missions in the amount of $650. Friendship Missionary Baptist Church supported Brother Rick Jones for the amount of $720. Brother Paul Bryson in the amount of $720, and the Gold Coast Mission Fund in the amount of $720. Harvest Missionary Baptist Church supported the New Era School in Ghana, Africa. Missionary Brother Paul Lawson in the amount of $1,000. Kokomo supported Old Time in Ohio in the amount of $1,200, as well as Upper Spotsylvania Missionary Baptist Church in Virginia in the amount of $1,200. Macedonia supported the New Hope Fund. Brother Tom, Sister Sarah Londe, as well as Sister Ashley Lawson. Brother John requested prayer for. She's moving out to Kenya as we speak in the amount of $600. Outreach supported the Jamaica Fund, Brother Rick Jones for $600. New Hope Preparatory School for the amount of $900, as well as the Old Fashioned Gospel Hour of Brother Otis Jones for the amount of $600. Pleasant Valley supported home missions in the amount of $7,494.95, as well as foreign missions in the amount of $600. Salem did not report any missionary support at this time. Southside Missionary Baptist Church supports Brother Rick Jones in the amount of $1,200, as well as Brother Paul Bryson in the amount of $2,400, as well as their nursing home efforts with Brother Brian Goltz and Brother Brian Chive, with no financial information provided. Finally, the Whiteland Missionary Baptist Church supported the Gold Coast Mission Fund in the amount of $750.
All right, you heard the reading of the missions report. What's the will of the body? All right, we have a motion and a second to adopt the report on missions, and we'll have Derek have 10 minutes.
I didn't mean to mention and fail to that the total amount in which missions were supported by the association's churches in the past year was $33,422. One of the most memorable sermons that I've listened to in my life was preached well before I was born. But the man who was delivering the sermon began it with a question. he said, is this subject relevant? I want to start with that today. Is this subject relevant? We have the missions report every year. It is given to us, and for those that have been tasked with preparing it, and Brother Scott will give us a hearty amen, it can be very difficult to do that, to collect this information. I know that it is now provided in the letters that the churches provide to the association with the home missions supported as well as the foreign missions. But that's missing some element of specificity. It's missing the specific missions that are supported. So I've just been asking myself the last several weeks, what's the point? Why are we tasked with this missions report? Why is it a standing subject that the association addresses every year? Why is it relevant? What is the purpose of missions? What's the purpose of this report? Several years ago, I was at a yard sale, and as Baptist preachers do, we go to yard sales to buy books. So I picked up a book there on the subject of missions. And sort of the thesis statement that was offered in this book was that missions exist because worship doesn't. Now, I have been challenged by that thesis statement that this man wrote in this book for a long time. Just could not make heads and tails of what he was really insinuating when he wrote those words, that missions exist because worship doesn't. Brother Billy Moran helped clear that up for me in his handbook for Missionary Baptist Churches, and I know that he was offering those while he was here this weekend, but he provided this insight concerning missions. And the insight, the advice that he offered was that we should preach, as missionaries should preach, where new churches are needed. That it is not very helpful for a missionary to go and preach somewhere where there might be another church or two churches or multiple churches that are already struggling.
Amen.
So establishing another church in that area is not bringing to light the missionary Baptist faith or our ranks or our people in a positive light, but instead are breeding confusion amongst people. So instead, we should desire to go and plant churches. We should desire to go and do mission work, as it were, in areas where there's not worship that's taking place now. In areas where it is that God's name is needed to be lifted up amongst people groups that are not being churched or not being exposed to true and sound doctrine, the gospel of Jesus Christ that can offer salvation to them. So we should desire instead to do as Romans chapter 15 teaches us. I'm just going to read a handful of verses here. Romans chapter 15, beginning at verse 18. It says, "For I will not dare to speak of any of those things which Christ has not wrought by me, to make the Gentiles obedient by word and deed. Though mighty signs and wonders by the power of the Spirit of God, so that from Jerusalem and round about unto," excuse my pronunciation, I'm with Brother Pratt on some of these words, but with Illyricum, "I have fully preached the gospel of Christ. Yea, so have I strived to preach the gospel," listen to this, "not where Christ was named, lest I should build upon another man's foundation. But as it is written, to whom he was not spoken of, they shall see. And they that have not heard shall understand." Our desire in supporting missions, our desire as missionary Baptists, is that we would expose and proclaim the gospel to those from whom it is hid. Isn't that our work, our task as missionary Baptist churches? That if our gospel be hid, it is hid to those that are lost. And that we would go and we would proclaim it. And that we would uplift the name of Christ high, that He might draw men unto Him. You see, I begin to understand this man's thesis statement, that missions exist because worship doesn't. So then, we still are left with the question that I opened with. Is this subject relevant? The total support last year amongst our churches for missionaries, as reported to the association, was $33,422, and that is slightly up from last year. Slight increase. Last year was around $32,000 or so. So that's an increase. And to me, $33,000 is a good sum of money. That's an accomplishment that 15 churches would collect that much money to disperse to these missionaries. It's an accomplishment, and it speaks to our people that we would give and support what their efforts are. Yet we know that missions struggle, don't they? I have not personally been on the mission field. I wouldn't even dare say that I've really gone on a mission trip. I've gone with Brothers Elliott over to Wyoming, and we preached out there. And you might say, Wyoming's a really weird place to go on a mission trip. It might seem that way, but there's people that desire to hear the Lord.
Amen.
Yeah. And we ought to take to them. Whether it's Wyoming or whether it's somewhere that might seem so far from us, or whether it's those places that are known, we should desire that where there are lost people that need to be reached, that God would send us. I forget the statistics that the brother shared yesterday of how many preachers we have in our ranks. If you're looking for somewhere to preach, pray that the Lord send you where there are lost people that need to hear. That's the only prerequisite to need to preach, is that there be somebody there to hear you. So go and find somewhere where you can proclaim the gospel and preach it and proclaim the name of Jesus.
Amen.
Back to my question. I don't want to stray off too far. So this 33,000 number, that seems like a good sum of money. Well, I believe that one reason why missions struggle as much as they do is that the missionaries that are sent out are still bogged down with all the other affairs of life. They're working jobs, they're desiring to provide for their families, they're stressed, they're faced with meeting the bills of rental space where it is that they're holding their missions. And just to be frank, and again, I can't speak from experience in this, they must just be stressed to the max. My wife and I, when we were on our honeymoon down the Gulf Coast, we went and were visiting with the Joneses, with Brother Rick and his good wife, Sister Linda, and had the privilege of preaching at the mission work there in Panama City and enjoyed fellowshipping with them. But they were living in a little apartment and didn't have a whole lot, but they were desiring the Lord. But here they were strapped and tight and just making do with what they had and have done so for many years.
Amen.
So $33,000 seems like a lot. But did you know that it's only enough to support 1.5 missionaries at the U.S. poverty line? That's tight. That's the poverty line. I'm not saying that they'd be comfortable. I'm saying just to be considered poor. 15 churches supported 1.5 men to be able to do that. And I know we dispersed it amongst a greater number than that. So what's the purpose of the mission trip? Is this subject relevant? I would like to see us provide specifics still for the mission report, and not just broad brush it as home or foreign missions. And the reason why is that the purpose of the missions report is to communicate to the churches of the association what missions are out there, what missions we're supporting, that we as these other churches can get behind them and support them further. That we can help that work that's going on in a greater and more prosperous way. That this subject would stay relevant and not be something that we see as no longer necessary because churches are going to support what they're going to support. But instead we can say, hey, our church has become aware of this Peacekeepers International that Faith in Michigan was supporting. We didn't know much about it. But we want to talk to them to see what it is. And we've heard that Detroit's hurting, and maybe we can help Faith Church in Michigan to reach that community. And we can help those efforts that are going on. Let's support that. That's the purpose of the missions report. That's why this subject is relevant. The other portion of this that makes it relevant is that it provides the opportunities for the missionaries that are going forth from our churches to provide an update on where they stand. As I reached out to the churches to collect information for the mission report, in addition to asking for what missions were supported and what the financial information was, I asked them to provide the contact information for the missionary, as well as any correspondence that they had from the missions, as to whether or not they were experiencing successes or failures. I got back a very limited amount of what I asked for. I'm not mad at anybody for that. I know it's difficult, and I know we're trying to get things together somewhat last minute a lot of times with the association, so I'm not speaking judgment about that. But what I am concerned about is that we neglect our missionaries that are in the field. Maybe they don't do the best job of providing us updates, but I'm convinced we probably don't do the best job of asking them. Calling them up as pastors, calling them up as lay members, and saying, brother, I was just praying for that work out there in Virginia, and I wanted to see how it was going. What do you need? What successes are you experiencing? What failures are you struggling with? How can we help you? Because you see, we have this group of people and we're meeting here in Indiana. And I want to tell them what's going on. And you know, we have our comfortable buildings and we have these means that we have to meet. We know that the work there is struggling along. And we wanted to take up a special collection Wouldn't that be great if that was the effectiveness of a mission report?
Amen.
So the question is this subject relevant? And the answer is a resounding yes. It is. And so I want to encourage us as an association that we don't neglect what this is. I speak from experience. I've neglected it in the past. I just took it as reading these numbers, but it has now appeared to me to be so much greater than that. And it has a much more effectiveness if we would view it for what it is meant to do. I would love to be able to support men to be able to fully go into the missions work, the work of planting churches, without the need to be tied up in secular work.
Amen.
Wouldn't that be good? If they could just be sold out. You know how much more effective that would be? Well, and I'll close with this. I don't know how much more time I have, but brother moderator. But when we were with Brother Rick and Sister Linda there in Panama City, I was just astonished by watching him at work. They took us out to eat at the TGI Fridays after service that morning, and he was inviting our waiter down to Jamaica. His name was Frank, and Rick was convinced that he could take Frank to Jamaica and find him a wife. But there he was, this old man, kind of a hillbilly, loving to death. But there he was, desiring that this waiter that he'll probably never come in contact with again, desiring to at least leave some impression on him. Then we went walking along the pier. And as we were doing so, he would go up to people and he would just start talking to them. And he wasn't pressing anything upon them. But he would talk with them and he'd see if they would be receptive to anything. And if so, he'd turn the conversation towards the Lord. And he'd hand him a card and say, "Come check us out sometime." And then he'd just go about his way. And too often, I speak from my experience, we think of this forcefulness of the missionary, just trying to force this square peg into a round hole and making these things work. That's not really how the Lord works, is it? He never forced himself upon anybody.
Amen.
I desire that we would all have a greater heart for the mission works that are going on, for the churches that these men are making an effort to plant in these places. And I want us to be comfortable with that word too. I don't mean to start chasing rabbits here, but mission work is what we've used in our churches for a long time. If I say to talk to somebody at work about a mission work, they're thinking that somebody's going to Haiti to build houses. Effectively, what they're desiring to do is plant churches. That's the hope. Is to establish churches. And I think we should be comfortable using that terminology of what these men are desiring to do is plant churches. We should support that. That there would be worship where there's not worship now. Is this subject relevant? Yes, it is. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate that. All right, we have Brother James Whitney and Elder Bart Jones, and I don't believe either one of those brothers are here. So this subject is before you, brethren. Anyone else that wishes to speak on this? Brother Thompson.
I don't want to labor on this subject long because I've been way too much on many years ago in a report. But Brother Del Compton mentioned to me yesterday when he was visiting with my dad, or in the nursing home, about something I had mentioned in the church up in Chicago and Joliet, Illinois, that I had made a plea for help and for ministers to help fill their pulpit and serve to help them survive. He said, "Steve, historically, when nothing like that was brought before the association would take that up as a subject, and they would supply the help to keep that work going." So my plea this morning to you as brother, as pastors, supply the need. Help me help them. There used to be about a dozen Sound Missionary Baptist churches in the Chicago area. It's dwindled down to about 4 or 5 now. And you say, "Well, I've never heard of them. I don't know them." Well, my great uncle, Arlen Clemens, came from around Edmond, Kentucky. He gave his life, lived to be 92 years old, helping start many of those churches. He just passed away 2.5 years ago. And Brother Jeff Elliott has preached up there, and he can vouch for them. His son's a member there. Some of our members at Pleasant Valley have been members up there. Be prayerful for me, help me. And I would ask any of you as pastors to look in your congregation and see who you might send my way and talk to them. I've desired to bring your church into our fellowship for a long time, not for increase of numbers, but for support and for the glory of the Lord's work, because they need our help and we need theirs. Would you do that for me? Would you do it for the Lord today? Bless you.
Bless you, brother. Anyone else wish to speak on this subject?
Moderator,
Brother Noah?
just a couple minutes. While the ride was going on, I kind of had it on my heart to go through and count how many ordained ministers we have and licensed ministers we have. Roughly, we have 30 ordained ministers and we have 28 licensed ministers. By that number, of course, the ordained, you can't, most of them are pastors, so they're busy pastoring church, they can't be going out doing mission work. I'm kind of a numbers and data type of person. That's just what I've been trained at work. We don't have that many missions out there. And to be honest, I would actually like to see us our church is actually struggling to raise the money to send out. We really don't have that problem right now. We've got too many people, too many ordained ministers and licensed ministers sitting on the pew, not doing the work. Like I said, I'm trained in data, and to come up with a solution, the only thing I can say is pastors, start working with your ministers, ordained and licensed. Apparently we're not doing that right now. We need to start pushing that more. We need to start getting more people out on the ground. We need to get more out to the world, not just sitting here in church. We also need to help our other churches that are struggling. We have, I think, 1 or 2 churches that don't have a pastor right now. I'm sure they would love it to have their pews filled, or their pulpit filled every Sunday. It should be a problem of theirs that they need to start delegating out or rejecting, because we have too many people sitting around not doing anything. Brother.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this subject? Brother Elliott?
I just want to say ouch.
Anyone else?
Brother, just real quick, I'm sorry. I've said it before and I sound like a broken record. It's also not just our ministers, also the lay members. If you feel that it's time to start something up in your area or something and you can provide that means, God will fill the pulpit for you. You start asking someone, okay, well, we've got a need, somewhere in Indianapolis. I know this building here. We can get it filled, get it rented, and then start contacting everyone and try to get it arranged. So it's not just the ministers that it's up to, it's also everyone that's all involved. There's a reason why we're called Missionary Baptists. It's not just to drive to church and be happy where we're at.
All right, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on the subject of missions? All right, if not, all in favor of adopting this subject? Thank you, Dan. Anyone opposed? And there's no opposition, so the subject is adopted.